Tank School is back in session. This is part 2. What are the tank perks? Now before I go on, if you already know about the tank perks, you can just skip this video. There's a link below. You can go to part 3. And hell, if part 3 is something you already know, skip to part 4. This is going from basic to advanced, and so if you already know a little bit about tanking, skip ahead. Just ignore this video. Now let's go into the perks. There are 3 different categories of perks with every type of vehicle: upgrade, gadget, and weapon. Why is this important to talk about? It's because you only get to choose one perk from each of these 3 categories, which means that there's going to be opportunity costs associated with choosing one over the other. We'll talk about this a bit more as we go through the perks, but let's go right into it. The first perk is Proximity Scan. Proximity Scan is the first perk you unlock, and like the tugs on the Recon class, it provides a sort of a radar, if you will, that shows up enemy guys on your minimap. It has a radius of maybe 20 to 30 meters, approximately speaking, but what's really cool about it is that you can detect enemies through walls. You can detect them if you can't see them, as long as they're within that radius of 20 to 30 meters. It's really quite powerful. Now, the proximity class is also one of the types of perks that if you are a gunner in the tank or a CATV guy in the tank, that proximity scan will still apply to you, even though you're not in the driver's side of the tank, or moving around and shooting that main gun. So it's one of those perks that actually can stack. That's really important to know, and we're going to talk about that a bit more later, but just keep that in mind. Moving on to Reactive Armor. Reactive Armor is one of the most powerful vehicle perks in the game. Bar none, it is really powerful. Why is this? Because it has a really simple mechanism how it works. It puts a shield on a given position of the vehicle, stopping almost any missile or projectile from damaging that section. But once it stops a single projectile, it goes away. For main battle tanks, it's on the 2 sides and the rear, or the 3, 6, and 9 o'clock positions. And for the IFVs, it's for all 4 sides. While it does not generate on its own, you can actually use your repair tool and repair it after 3 or 4 seconds at the very most. And you can actually see the status of your reactive armor here. Now let's move on to thermal camo. Thermal camo is not what you think it is. It doesn't mean that the tank is more difficult to see on thermals. Instead, it is a passive perk which allows you to give you more time before an enemy can lock onto you with a CITV, with a SOFLAM, or with a javelin or a guided missile. So instead of taking approximately 3 seconds, it takes approximately 6 seconds. And because of that, that provides some really big advantages. It allows you to maneuver around a lot faster to seek cover or to seek concealment, to try to avoid from getting hit. So it's essentially very similar to what we see in the helicopter with ECM jammer, where it sort of stops it. Although an ECM jammer, it actually will break the lock. In the case of the vehicle, it does not break the lock. So I guess it's more like stealth and not ECM jammer. Nonetheless, though, you get the idea. It takes longer for the enemy to lock onto you. Going to the next perk, Maintenance. Maintenance is a perk which means that over a certain period of time, where you don't take damage, you will then start to slowly regen your health. It's that simple. It has its perks in that if you're playing in servers that have vehicle regen on, it provides you the ability to regen a whole lot faster. Whereas with vehicle regen off, it doesn't actually impact you at all. It's not that good perk to have during that server setting. That's okay though. Maintenance perk is what it is, and let's keep on going. Finally, we have Autoloader. Autoloader makes you shoot your main gun faster. It actually makes it shoot about 20% faster. So instead of shooting every 5 seconds, you shoot every 4 seconds. Now, that can provide some pretty substantial advantages under certain scenarios of shooting 20% faster if you want to get a lot more lead down range. But 20% faster, that's what you got to know. That's what you got to remember. And then that's the end of the upgrade perks. Let's move on to the gadget perks. The gadget perks are sort of like the turret perks, if you will. They're not exclusively turret perks, but they are different things that you can utilize to help you play better. So the first one we're going after is IR smoke. IR smoke, or infrared smoke, allows you to pop that smoke And when it pops out, it not only removes those laser locks, as it says here, but it also will spoof guided missiles and javelins and other things of that nature from hitting you while they're in flight. It's really quite powerful, and of course it obfuscates all of the various enemy infantry guys that are going to be around you. They won't be able to see you. Now they can still hit you, but they won't be able to see you. So that is really quite powerful. So let's remember this. It stops laser locks, and it stops missiles from hitting you while they're in flight. Really good to know. Let's go to the next perk. The next perk is Zoom Optics. It's just that. You get a 3x modification on your optics instead of a regular, so it's, if you want like a sniper scope on your tank, that's what it is. It's that simple. The next perk is Thermal Optics. Thermal Optics are the perk that you can push your mouse to or push your secondary, and what do you see? You see everything in sort of a black and white thermal vision, sort of like what we see in the armored kill trailer with the AC-130 flying around and shooting dudes, that kind of thing. It makes seeing infantry a lot easier. It makes seeing tanks a whole lot easier. It doesn't always work in all maps. There are certain maps where the thermal isn't nearly as good, and we'll talk a lot more about that in future episodes, but just remember, you can see things by and large easier when you're in thermals. And that's the end of the gadgets. Not that many. Moving on to the weapons, the first one is the Coax Light Machine Gun. The Coax Light Machine Gun is just that. It's basically an M240 or an M249. Actually, I think it's an M249. And it allows you to shoot infantry when you switch from your main gun to your light machine gun. It doesn't do as much damage or has as much accuracy as an M249 does held by infantry. And as you play this, you'll find that it does have some disadvantages in that respect. But it does provide some capabilities if you are one of those guys that want to have that old school battlefield feel of having that machine gun. Likewise, we also have Canister Shell. Canister Shell as a weapon is one of the most powerful secondary weapons around. Canister Shell looks like a big shotgun shell. It says that it's a bunch of tungsten balls fired through the cannon muzzle, and it's a shotgun shell, but it doesn't act like a shotgun shell. It acts more like a railgun, or a sniper rifle, if you will. The Canister Shell only has a very small spread, but at the same time is super deadly against infantry. If you can get on their body, it's going to kill them. It's that good, and it can also engage at really long ranges. It doesn't have the arc that the main battle tank main gun has, and so you don't have to aim to compensate for that deviation in drop. Really quite powerful, really good. You can one-shot people left and right, and if you are really accurate with the tank, it is a great choice to always use. Now we have the coaxial heavy machine gun. It's like its light machine gun brethren out there. However, it has a little bit more range. It fires a lot slower. It's basically like a slower version of the 50 cals that are on the Growlers. And it's pretty accurate, but it still has quite a bit of spread. I only wish it was as powerful as the Growler heavy machine guns, because those Growler heavy machine guns are pretty powerful. This one on the tank, not so much. It's a little bit to be desired. Light machine gun and heavy machine gun on both the tanks are okay, but in many circumstances, Canister Shell is a better option going against infantry. Finally, we have Guided Shell. Guided Shell is like the Javelin. It requires a lock-on. And once it locks on target, it fires and guides itself autonomously, so you don't have to move it around. It just locks on and fires. Oh, it takes 3 seconds to lock on if they're not running any kind of thermal camo. And, like the Javelin, its damage will be doubled if the target you are firing at is laser designated. This is an incredibly powerful anti-tank weapon, especially if you can use it in conjunction with your teammates. Someone who's in the CATV position, or someone who's a recon who's a SOFLAM down. It is stopped by the reactive armor, but when it hits a main battle tank that doesn't have reactive armor, or hits a portion of the tank that is exposed, it almost always does a one-shot disable when you have that laser designation. It's really quite powerful. And here's another cool thing about it. It also allows you to lock onto air targets if they're also laser designated, just like the Javelin. And so there's a lot of videos that you can see on my channel where I am one-shotting these helicopters and jets because my teammate is in the CAT position, locking on, giving me the shot. That's teamwork. And finally, that's it. That's the last of the perks. Now, you may ask yourself, well, daskro, are you going to tell me what perk class to run, what setup? Most people that I run into in the tank run this kind of setup. Reactive armor, IR smoke, and canister shot. They run this combination because reactive armor gives you the ability to take damage from 3 of your sides without worrying about being disabled. It gives you the time to not only shoot the enemy guy if you can shoot him and kill him within a few seconds, but also it gives you time to get out of there. On top of that, the IR smoke provides you an additional ability to not only obfuscate the vision of your enemies, but also to stop laser detonators and to stop enemy guided shells or javelins that are coming your way. And then finally, canister shell gives you the ability to kill these infantry really fast. A really good infantry combo. But the thing is that this is really a setup that a lot of people in public servers will use, but it isn't necessarily the best for private servers. When you're playing in a match as a tanker, when you know that you have a tank guy with you, a repair guy with you, who's running in the CITV position, or you have a recon that you know is going to be SOFLAM, maybe it's better to run guided. Likewise, maybe your tank isn't going to be pushing up that much. Maybe you're playing more of a defensive role. Maybe in that case, thermal camo is better, because the only thing you got to worry about is perhaps some aerial lock-ons, and you can break them that way. Or alternatively, what if you are going to be so far back that you're going to just be shooting a lot of people a lot, but you don't have to worry about taking damage? Then maybe autoloader or even a zoom optics is a better option. Different perks are going to be utilized differently based on how the tank's being used, what type of gameplay it's being used in, and what kind of support system you have. Do you have teammates that are there to support you? Overall, though, play around with what works and what you like to utilize, and figure out through just analysis, using critical thinking to figure out which perk setup is best for the scenario that you are in the tank. We're going to talk a whole lot more about this in coming episodes. A whole lot more about the thought process, how we think about moving the tank around, how we think about the perks that we utilize, and think about the adversaries that we're going against. We're going to think about these things and talk about them and discuss them and debate them, and hopefully I can provide you the insights on how to play the tank better and be a better player. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Until next time.